If you've had a miscarriage, you're most likely wondering when you can start trying to conceive again. Some people might feel ready right away and just be ready to go. It is hard to go from being pregnant one day and be looking forward to having our baby, and then one day not be pregnant anymore and not have that baby. And some of us, myself included, feel very ready to be pregnant again, really be anticipating that baby's arrival. However, it is usually recommended you wait at least one cycle, ideally up to four, maybe even a little bit longer before you try to conceive again. There's a few reasons for that. It really depends on the person. One, you really want to make sure that you are ready emotionally to try to conceive again, especially because we don't always conceive right away. There's different chances based on your age every month whether or not you will conceive. It's not always 100% that you'll conceive right away. So just feeling ready emotionally, that's a huge step, because if you don't conceive right away, if you're still dealing with the trauma and things like that, that can be a little bit harder on us. You really want to make sure that you are taking care of yourself and feeling really ready to go into another pregnancy, feeling whole and ready to go. Secondly, which is also really important, is making sure that your nutrient stores are ready to go, especially if you've had a baby recently, if you're breastfeeding. I have a 14-month-old, I'm breastfeeding, and I just had a miscarriage. So I know that I really need to focus on my nutrient stores. I really need to make sure that my vitamins and minerals are good, especially because in my first trimester before I had this miscarriage, my eating was not great. I was not eating my usual diet at all. All I wanted was like frozen, non-organic food, like my usual like meat and eggs and dairy and vegetables. That did not sound good at all. So I know that I have a little bit to make up for there, especially because a lot of energy and nutrients also did go to the baby that I ultimately miscarried. So that's another really big step too. Just, third, making sure that you're feeling ready as a couple, making sure that your body has a time to recuperate. Another thing that kind of goes into this too is making sure that your hormones have leveled out. I touched on this in my previous video, that your HCG doesn't always level out right away. So making sure that the HCG has a time to leave your body, making sure that your hormones are really balanced too, especially if that's something you've struggled with in the past. That's something that you really want to look at, what your estrogen and your progesterone and things like that look like. And you can do lab tests for these. You can do both a metabolic panel to look at your vitamins and minerals. You can also, do a test usually on the third day of your period. It can be a little different based on progesterone, however, but just really looking at what your hormone levels are, making sure everything's ready, because when we're going into a pregnancy after having a miscarriage, we really want to make sure the body is really ready for a pregnancy. You really want to optimize your chances of fertility, because we don't want to have a recurrent miscarriage. That's something that's really difficult. We want to make sure that we are really ready on all levels going into another pregnancy. So I wish you all the best. We've had a recent miscarriage and you do want to conceive again. I do have sessions available for that where we can kind of troubleshoot a little bit and go over some things together. I'm also here for support. Really want to be there to support through grief and all the emotions you're feeling. Our partners can usually be a great source of support. I know my husband is, however, they're also going through this trauma. And a lot of times, like, family and friends might not really understand what you're going through, especially if they haven't gone through pregnancy loss themselves. So if you do want a little bit of help, please feel free to reach out and we can talk about how I can help you. Another thing I want to talk about in future videos too is really how you can get yourself ready for another pregnancy in terms of herbs and nutrients and working through the trauma and things like that. And that's things I'll focus on. And to be honest, going into starting my fertility coaching and this page, I was not going to focus on miscarriage really. I was going to focus more on preconception and things like that. But now that I had a miscarriage this week, I'm really more focused on what we're going through after a miscarriage. And this also is a big part of preconception. It's very similar if we're going into another pregnancy after a miscarriage. It's still very similar to preconception, but I really want to touch more on that. So you'll see a little bit more on miscarriage in future videos, and then I'll probably switch topics and maybe talk a little bit more about other stuff. But as anything else, my business is a huge part of me. It's very personal. Something I'm going through right now is coping after my miscarriage and preparing for another pregnancy. So that's why you'll see more of that. And I hope that can be relevant and useful to you.